Hey, Pat Welsh here. You know what that means? Taco Tuesday. Take action, crush obstacles. So, welcome back to the podcast for Taco Tuesday edition, episode 20. I'm your host, Pat Welsh. If you're new to our Warrior Servant Leader community, welcome. We're glad you're here. If you're returning, glad to have you back. So, before we jump in, I want to shout out to our supporters, Kyle Reyes and his folks at Law Enforcement Today, Blue Lives Matter, and Police Tribune. Thank you for all your support and your encouragement in making this podcast possible. So, do you struggle with where you're going in life? Why am I stuck in this rut? Things have got to get better, or I'm going to quit, or I'm just going to explode. You can't shake your past. Uh, you feel like you're alone, and you just don't have a good idea of where you're at and where you're going. Well, today's podcast I call Grow Where You Are Planted or Transplanted. And I got to give you some background on how I came up with that idea. So picture this yesterday. Uh, I was on a 4 mile hike over at the Sandstone Ranch open space. It's about a mile and a half from my house here in Colorado. And there's nobody out on the trail. You can it you can hike it, you can bike it, you can horseback uh, trail ride it. It's a huge reserve, and so I was basically out there by myself. I saw a couple horse trailers when I pulled in, but I didn't run into any horses. But I certainly found uh, their horse poop on the trail. Wasn't happy about that. And this trail, it goes through like a juniper forest, sandstone, red rock, scrub oak, wildflowers, open fields. I mean, it's just beautiful to take in. And as I was uh, coming around a bend on the trail, there was this huge standalone sandstone formation right in front of me when I came around this bend. At the very top of this 40, 50-foot formation was about, I don't know, a 15, 20-foot tree had grown out of the top of the rocks at the very top of this thing. And there, I mean, there's no vegetation on the sandstone. There's nothing else. I mean, there's scrub oak and stuff down at the bottom, but here, 40 or 50 feet up in the air, at the top of this rock formation, is this beautiful full size tree. And my mind just started spinning with this thought of, man, grow where you are planted. Or if you've been transplanted, your life has changed. You've ended up somewhere you didn't expect to be. Grow where you are planted. So the rest of my hike, I wasn't even quite halfway through the hike when I came across this tree. So the rest of the hike, my mind is just spinning, not out of control, but rapidly reflecting on the last almost 68 years I've been on this earth. And how was I planted? Where did all this start? How did I get to where I'm at, kind of deal? And in a good way, not in a depressing way. I was just reflecting on my life. So I want to give you just a little bit of background. Is When I was born, when I was 3 days old, my birth mother was a widow. This is in the 1950s, Ireland. And when I was 3 days old, she had me baptized, and she took a taxi to a orphanage in Dublin, Ireland. And dropped me and 80 Irish pounds off to the nuns that were running this orphanage. And that's how my life started. And I lived in this orphanage until I was about 16 months old, and then adopted by an American family through Catholic Charities here in the United States. And then I get here to the United States, and I know I'm adopted. They kind of had to tell me I was the only kid in the whole neighborhood when I was 5.5 years old. Had to go to federal court and raise my little right hand and become a U.S. citizen. And my American birth certificate obviously says I was born in Dublin, Ireland. So I grew up in with that. Um, if you want to call it a mindset, but always having those questions in your mind of, why am I adopted? Why didn't my birth mother keep me? Uh, and and that impacts and influences, I guess, um, your worldview, how you see things. The other thing that, from a understanding kind of who I am and where I come from. I am a what they call a cradle Catholic. I was born Catholic, baptized. I only went to one public school in my entire life, and that was kindergarten, because there was not a Catholic kindergarten in Kansas City or in the area we lived in. So I went to Catholic schools from first grade all the way through law school. So I've had priests and nuns and all sorts of interesting folks growing up Catholic, and that has helped form my my worldview, form my faith, form my um, attitudes, how I think, what I think, why I think. And one of the things that I learned going through the 4-year Catholic Denver Biblical Studies program is Jeremiah 1, verse 5. And this is literally the foundation of grow where you are planted. Jeremiah says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I consecrate you or set you apart for a purpose." And that was God talking to Jeremiah. Before I formed you in the womb, that God formed each one of us. We weren't a mistake. We weren't a oops. Uh, we weren't an afterthought. God intentionally formed us in our mother's womb, and it says, "I knew you." And when the Bible uses the word "knew" like that, it actually means "I love you." That's the translation is "I knew you, I loved you before I formed you in the womb, and before you were born, I consecrated you." And that means set you apart for a specific purpose. In Jeremiah's case, it was to be a prophet. But that scripture is talking about each one of us as well. From the beginning of time, God intentionally formed each one of us and had a purpose, consecrated us for a purpose. And as I know this is a lot deeper than I think I usually go, uh, but I'm thinking all this while I'm taking this 4-mile hike, and it was very, very encouraging, and which I say gave me a sense of peace. So this is a short episode today because I don't want to get way off in the weeds. We are all formed and consecrated for a purpose, and we've been planted wherever we're at right now. And that transplanted, however you want to look at it, where you are right now each one of us, you have a story of your journey. You have a story to tell about how you were formed and consecrated by God and where you're at right now. So don't always be looking in the rearview mirror. Don't be looking back at life. Don't be looking at and regretting mistakes that you made. That's all in the past. Where are you right now, and how can you grow to that purpose that God consecrated you for? And if you have God first in all things, you will be looking for that purpose. And one of my favorite sayings is whatever you are looking for, you will always find more of it. So if you're always looking for how can God use me in this situation, whether it's a tragic, whether it's a happy situation, whatever it is, wherever you find yourself planted, how can God use you and grow you and impact you and the people that he's placed in your life? Because they've been planted just as well. They're no different than you, and they all have a story to tell also. So, wrap it up. One of my other favorite sayings is leaders are readers. Read about the imperfect people God has used throughout history. And a lot of saints did not start out as saints. I can tell you that. And some of them were like really, really off the rails until they started to grow where they were planted and seeing God's consecration for them. So read about people throughout history that have been and not even saints, have just been really, really impactful people from a faith perspective and have made the world a better place to be in. So no matter where you find yourself at today, you can grow, you can take action, crush obstacles, and you can travel that path that God has placed you on. So this is probably more like a Wisdom Wednesday than a Taco Tuesday, but I want to thank you for joining us today. I would love for you to subscribe to the podcast, especially if you're just listening for the first time. Leave us reviews, rate us, whatever they call it on your platform. Visit our website at warriorservantleaderpodcast.com. You can check out a couple books I've written about the warrior servant leader mindset. And the one that is the most personal book on there is Warrior Servant Leader, Life Behind the Cross. And it kind of gives you some deeper insight in my journey and how um, God and faith have gotten me through good times and bad times. Uh, what else? That's it. So, love y'all. See you next Tuesday for another Warrior Servant Leader podcast, Taco Tuesday. And remember this, always strive to do the right thing at the right time, the right way, and for the right reasons. Love you. See you next week.